Federal unions, the defender of workers, they're crumbling under the Trump administration. And it's not just about paychecks, it's about power, control, and a sprinkle of revenge. Picture this: 47,000 workers just got their union rights yanked out from under them. Gone. But why? And what does this mean for other federal agencies? Let's get into it. Let's start with the Department of Homeland Security. They've announced that they're stripping away collective bargaining rights from the TSA workforce. That's roughly 47,000 TSA officers. Those are the same folks that pat us down, that scan us as we're waiting to get into our flights. Now, why did they do this? Well, there's an email that says it's all about maximizing government productivity and efficiency and making the workforce swift and effective against threats. Sounds like a noble cause, right? Now, if you've ever been stuck in a TSA line at 6 in the morning, you might think, yeah, they could use some agility. But the union is not just about complaining over breaks. They also help negotiate fair pay. They protect workers from unfair firing, and they give workers a voice. Back in 2011, TSA got limited bargaining rights under President Obama. Then, in 2021, President Biden juiced it up by applying Title V rules. This gave workers in the TSA a 30% bump in pay. Before that, they had low morale and incredibly high turnover rates. So why get rid of it now? To better understand this, we had to zoom all the way out and look at the first term. President Trump in 2018, he signed an executive order that reduced the ability of the unions to negotiate. He cut official time that they could use for bargaining. Fast forward to today, and it's the same thing. We're starting with TSA. This is the first union under attack. There will be others that follow. Why? It's about control. A union contract means that some stuff is outside of the president's grip, and Trump, he likes his grip tight. This is another action that aligns perfectly with Project 2025. They want to privatize the security in airports. Why? Because profit is a great incentivizer and they can provide better customer service and a better experience in total. But if you're over 40 years old, you probably remember that this is the way that things used to be. Why did they change? What happened that made the TSA actually stand up as an agency? 9/11 happened. Before 9/11, the security was private sector. These are the three private companies that were responsible for airport security. Some people out there believe because it was private security, this is what led or contributed to the hijacking of planes in 9/11. And now, as a country, we're looking at going back to the old way of doing things, giving it back to the private sector. Apparently, DHS is saying that the unions is what's dragging airport security down, is what's dragging TSA down. Their press release claimed that at 86% of our airports, we've got more people doing full-time union work than screening bags. They say they have 200 TSA officers that they're getting paid to do union activities full-time. And that might seem like a problem, except they have 47,000 people in the TSA. So that's less than 0.5%. That's the problem. That's what's dragging everyone down. For perspective, picture 100 people. That's like less than 0.5 person out of 100. And here's the real deal. The head of the union says it's not about efficiency, it's retaliation. Why is it about retaliation? Because the union has been nonstop suing the Trump administration for the past several weeks. It's nonstop, so it feels a little personal. And not just that, unions in general, they've had a rocky ride, all right? They're not like the private sector. So in the private sector, you can always strike, right? In the public sector, you can't do that. The unions in the public sector cannot say, okay, we're going to strike. They tried that during Ronald Reagan. A whole bunch of people got fired. Legally, you cannot strike. And it's also very limited how much they can actually negotiate a higher wage. We saw it worked in TSA, but for the vast majority of government positions, it's not going to work that way. But even with those limitations, we still have over 1 million federal employees that have union contracts. So what benefit does a union provide? Well, they help employees fight unfair treatment, wrongful terminations, and workplace issues. They also provide legal assistance in disciplinary actions, grievance, and unfair labor practices. And unions can also lobby Congress to protect jobs, among other things. For all of that, you might decide to pay union dues or union fees. That's roughly about $20 to $40 per paycheck for a lot of people. But even if you do not pay, the unions still have a legal obligation to represent you if you are a bargaining employee. As long as you don't represent management or you're not in a unique position, the union will still represent you. But typically, non-members, they don't get the same level of representation as paying members. And 2025 has shown us the true limitations of federal unions. But TSA's not alone in this union busting. Last month, Trump's OPM declared telework clauses in union contracts like the one at the SSA unlawful. That deal was signed last year. It was supposed to guarantee and lock in telework to 2029. President Trump said, no, that's out. The Department of Education had a similar one. They had a telework deal. That one was voided as well. Oh, and don't forget the VA. 56% of its non-managerial staff are unionized. Trump's first term saw bargaining rights slashed there too. And this really is just the beginning. Project 2025 says privatize everything, generally speaking. That's like the mantra of Project 2025. So unions across the board, they're sweating. This TSA ruling, what's happening right here as it goes into the courts, this is going to be a predictor of things to come. So what happens when unions crumble? First, you can see morale tanking. TSA had dramatic turnover rates. You had like 20% attrition rate, which is double, more than double of the rest of the federal government. Second is safety. In 2023, TSA officers found 3,000 firearms at checkpoints. 95% of them were loaded. Now, third, what we could end up seeing gradually is more Schedule F, more at-will employees, so they're easy to fire, or just get rid of a good chunk of them and replace them with private contractors. Project 2025, they want to see TSA outsource like Canada's model where private companies handle the screening, which sounds efficient until you realize that private companies will do just about anything to maximize profit a lot of the times, regardless if it's moral or not. Now, unions are not perfect. You can argue that a lot of people that are lazy or ineffective, they're being represented by unions. Department of Homeland Security, they were whining about officers that were booking sick leave 7 months in advance, which I don't understand. Why would you be upset about that? Usually, if you have a surgery, you're going to schedule it multiple months in advance. I think that's a courtesy, if anything. They're looking at it as the person is faking an illness, when in reality, it's just a surgery that has been long waited and is finally able to get booked because of the specialist or whatever the case is. Now, another thing that's going to impact these agencies and these workers is you get rid of the union, you get rid of some of your lobbying power that you had within Congress. Let's rewind again to Trump's first term. The EPA union got hammered. Trump's 2018 orders cut their bargaining power. The results? Well, there was grievances over toxic work conditions, like literal chemical leaks occurring. You had one vet saying, we lost our ability to fight. Staffing dropped 20% by 2020. Trump 2.0 could be a whole lot worse. Project 2025, they want EPA gutted. No union, no pushback. But the unions are still fighting in court. There's at least 15 lawsuits as of March. Everything from Schedule F, mass firings, the deferred resignation program. They're going to keep the federal judges quite busy. Imagine you're a TSA worker in 2026, next year. Your boss has you scheduled for 2 14-hour shifts back to back. You speak up a little bit, ask if they can adjust the schedule. Maybe it's perceived as complaining. Boom, you're out. Who replaces you? A private sector guy. He's getting paid $15 an hour. You are making $25. This guy's making $15. Maybe he doesn't catch some of the contraband coming in. Maybe there's a safety incident that occurs. This could be the future at the TSA. Despite lower union membership, the concept, the idea of labor unions is still widely supported in the country, with 70% of Americans approving of unions. Where's all this headed? Well, TSA is the first domino. After that, you could be looking at the EPA, you could be looking at the Education Department, and then Social Security. Speaking of Social Security, that agency is under attack. They're going to be losing thousands of people. Could end up impacting your benefits. If you want to learn more about that, check this video out next. If you need a federal resume, check out the links down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.